Good morning, everybody. Happy Wednesday, even though it feels like a Tuesday because we had a 4-day week. Holy cow. All right. So, good morning, everybody. I am excited to be here for another day. Super excited. Things are going well. And today we're actually going to be talking about identifying some of the most common traits that your most difficult employees demonstrate. Are you ready? All right, so here's what's going on. We're live. You guys get an opportunity to ask me questions. If I don't see it, put it in the chat and I will get back to it because I've got a lot of moving things going on here. And this is live. This is not pre-recorded. We got it. All right. So do me a favor, if you know somebody who's struggling with working with difficult people in the workplace, believe it or not, this can apply everywhere at any time of your life as well. Go ahead, do me a favor, like this post, share it with somebody that you know, and feel free to go ahead and ask a question. All right, so here we go. Identifying these wonderful traits. So one of the first things that you're going to notice when you're dealing with a difficult employee is that they are pushing back and they are resistant to feedback. And that what you run into with that is that number one, they tend to get very defensive, they get very dismissive, they will reject your feedback. And essentially, what happens is it not only hinders their growth, but it also makes a negative impact within the team dynamics as well. The next thing that happens is that they lack accountability. All right. And all of these things will drive you absolutely batty. But the accountability thing is that employees will frequently shift blame. They will make excuses for their mistakes, and they absolutely will refuse to take ownership of their actions and negatively impacting team productivity. And then lastly is their negative attitude. It is contagious. Negativity is one of the most contagious things in the world. Conversely, being positive and being optimistic is equally contagious, especially when you're consistent with it. But negative stuff, attitudes penetrate much deeper, much farther, much faster. And a consistently negative or pessimistic outlook can spread through the entire team, and it completely undermines morale, completely undermines what it is you're trying to accomplish, and it creates a toxic work environment. All right, so let's dig into these just a little bit deeper. So resistance to feedback. When you have somebody who's resistant to feedback, you have to start mastering a skill of delivering feedback, the same kind of feedback, but to different individuals. Some people can go ahead and take on a more softer approach. Some people can take on a more direct approach. Some people will be accepting of a softer approach. Some people will be accepting of a more harder approach. It all kind of depends. And there's layers to this too, right? You may have had a feedback session with somebody on the same situation like weeks ago, and now you're finding yourself back here again. The frustrating part for leaders is the fact that they now have to have it again, right? Instead of somebody just taking it and fixing it the first time. So that feedback session on the second time may be slightly a little bit more intense, not a lot, but slightly, unless it was like a completely egregious act. And then the third one or the next one, God, if you have to do it again, right? If they keep doing what they're doing and they haven't changed that undesired behavior and put it into desired behavior, then the intensity naturally and absolutely is warranted that it's going to increase. And if your intensity is not increasing per conversation, they're not getting it. They just aren't getting it. They're not listening to what you're saying. They're not embracing it. They're not, and this is part of the taking responsibility. They don't necessarily have to say, yes, I take responsibility for my actions. Taking responsibility is also a form of repentance, meaning that, they're seeking forgiveness for it, for the oversight, but then they're actually turning around and actually correcting the issue. And so if you're having the same conversation over and over and over again, but your intensity is not changing, you are not making that kind of impact that you need to. And I'm not talking about like intensity, like banging your chest, calling them names or anything like that. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm talking about intensity, that they can clearly see that this is not a good situation for them to be in, meaning they have behaved their way into a bad situation and they need to behave their way out of it. Okay. That's what I'm referring to intensity. So when you're giving feedback, there's nothing wrong with intensity increasing, because people will respond when there's negative, unpleasant consequences. And I'm not talking about punishment. I'm just talking about consequences, right? People don't like the feeling of failure. They hate failure. We know that already. They don't like the feeling of failure. And what happens is that the normal psyche will start to feel bad about what they're doing. And if they can't handle it, and if they're one of those individuals that just wants to hit that easy button, they're going to start doing the next thing, and that is start turning around and blaming other people. They're going to make mistakes for what's going on. It's never going to be their fault. And believe it or not, that is a narcissistic trait. And you don't have to be a narcissist to have a narcissistic trait. All right. If they start making those excuses, your next step would be to learn how to get really good at disarming them from making them, right? They need to understand what the difference between an excuse and a reason is. And a reason sometimes can be an excuse. So if they give you a reason and it's always constantly, this reason, that reason, this reason, that reason, it's just an excuse. That's all it is. It's just another excuse. Okay. So sometimes if you cut the reason off, like cutting the nose off to spite the face, so to speak, what happens is that they can't give you a lot of excuses. And eventually they'll learn that the proper answer is there is no excuse for this. It was an oversight. I will make sure it doesn't happen again. And it goes back to that repentance thing where they realize that the mistake has been made. They will do everything that they can in their power to go ahead and correct it. And then positive reinforcement moving forward. But the last one I really want to dig into a little bit more, and that's negative attitude. One of the things that I've learned about having a negative attitude, or having an employee that has a negative attitude, okay, when you're dealing with these difficult personalities, is that have you ever, like, if you understand the difference between abundance and scarcity, right? Abundance is just like, it's overwhelming. There's so much of this stuff. There's always going to be plenty of whatever, right? And a scarcity mindset really sucks people down into the ground. A scarcity mindset is a mindset where they feel like there's never enough. There's never going to be an opportunity. It's always this mindset of like, I'm lacking somewhere, or I don't have. So there's a lack of having and possessing. Okay. That's what a scarcity mindset is. And what happens with a scarcity mindset is during this, with difficult individuals, if they have one, they start having this why me kind of conversation. There's never enough kind of mental approach to everything, often followed by things like jealousy and comparison. And I guarantee you, if you have somebody who is negative, you have somebody who has a scarcity mindset. And that is a very difficult thing to get somebody to turn around into seeing things abundantly. The benefit of doing it is that when you can work with somebody to flip that scarcity mindset around into a more abundant mindset, which is a more positive mindset, it actually rewires their brain chemistry. And they actually start seeing the world in a much different way. So it takes a long time to reverse bad behavior. It really does. And it's a lot of work. And on top of it, the individual has to want to do it as well. And so they're going to, when you start having these conversations with them, you're going to put them in a position of either I have to change this around for myself, or there's going to be a greater negative consequence, which could be the risk of losing their job, or having responsibility taken away, or they're no longer being trusted for anything. Like something, whatever's intrinsically important to that individual, that is going to start showing up. The other negative piece of it, or the other consequence is that you, instead of putting the decision in their hands of changing, you're now making the decision for them. And that is either do they stay or do they go? Right? So those are some pretty significant consequences for somebody who has a consistent negative attitude. And I'm going to be honest with you right now, negativity and scarcity is an absolute cancer in your business. Now, that's not to say that everybody's going to be running around like Mary Poppins and rainbows and sunshine. I mean, that's not what it is, right? But if you have that one person that is just literally sucking the life out of people, you really have to determine whether or not this is the right fit for your team, because a negative person is an anchor dragging in the sand. And one of these days, that anchor is going to get lodged into a rock. And you're going to find that you guys are not making any forward motion whatsoever. So that's what I got for you today. Now, if you are struggling with this kind of stuff, here's what I'd like you to do. I have a brand new program. It is out. It's official. I'm super excited about it. I would love for you to go ahead and put your questions in the comments below. But I also have a brand new program that is designed specifically to help you address how you're feeling, what you're doing, all you in dealing with very difficult people, right? This is something that you can apply as a coworker, something that you can apply as a leader, as a manager. It's something that you can apply, even believe it or not, personally in your life as well. But I tend to focus more on the difficult people at work side of things. So the cool part about this is that if you want to try the program out, you'll be able to go ahead and get the very first episode for only $39. Or is it 37? I think it's 37. I love it when I can't remember numbers properly. Anyway, it's under $40 for the first one, which is really amazing. And then you'll have an opportunity to go ahead and invest in the remainder of the program. Super affordable. It's a full 10-week program. It's something that I'm really excited about. I know this works because I've done the work. That's the thing. I've personally done this work for a long time. And the best part about what I love, how this whole program, it's called Fortitude, Managing the Unmanageable. And what I love about the program is that everything that is folded into it, it doesn't have like a cutoff point. It's something that you can always revisit. You always have access to this. You can always go back and revisit the work, because with every level of improvement and development, it's like the law of exposure, right? Once you've been exposed, you can't be unexposed. And once you're exposed to something, you either have a choice. You're either going to deal with it or you're not. But the cool part is that no matter where you are in your development, you can revisit this information and it's going to look slightly different the next time around. And it's going to mean something different in a very good way to whatever stage you are in your life, in your work development, your leadership development, everything. It's something that like first-time leaders can use, first-time managers can use, all the way up to the most tenured individual in your organization, because quite frankly, we're going to run into these folks all the time. Okay. So how do you get the program? Do me a favor. Go ahead. If you're interested, DM me, send me a message directly to me, and just type in the word Fortitude, and I will go ahead and send you the link so that you can go ahead and at least get the very first episode and then decide whether or not you want to move forward and get the entire program. You're going to love it. I mean, it's really good stuff. I'm so excited about it. So don't stop. Don't hesitate. Go ahead, hit me up in the DMs and let me know if you want Fortitude or not. All right, guys, I will talk to you tomorrow, same time, same place. Again, if you have enjoyed this, if you found value in this, do me a favor, give it a like, go ahead and share and comment down below. You're welcome to go ahead and put your questions in. If I don't see them as I'm looking at my screen right now, then I will definitely